You follow the heat, and then I get in.
We're going to pause the recording for now. Again, you can always put pillows underneath your knees or underneath your hips to kind of help anything extra here. And it's in these really tough moments where we get to ask ourselves a whole bunch of questions like, okay, I get it, this sucks. But if you start to draw out your inhales and calm down your exhales, it gets easier and easier to hold into the posture. Now, again, if it's too much, you can always lean forward or find your way out of the posture. Just be sure to reintroduce yourself to it. Take a moment to reset your shoulders. Start to look for something else to distract you for a moment that you can kind of resettle in. "15 more seconds. "10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, tabletop. Stack your shoulders over your wrists. Take a moment to let your legs kind of reach back. It might feel nice to let your toes bend the other way or kind of drive them into the floor, or to kind of play a little drum solo. And just work to kind of move your toes and your ankles around for a second. Point your toes out back behind you, and then work to sit back. And we're going to try to find a stretch in the opposite direction. So we won't stay here as long, but we're ensuring that we can get as much dorsiflexion, which was that first move. Again, your toes being up that way. And then plantar flexion, your toes pointing. Get it? I talk about flex and extend all the time, and this is a weird scenario where they're both flexes, and that bothers me. They say things like I before E except after C, and I go, that's weird. Because it immediately doesn't follow the rules. So, same kind of scenario. Somebody's popular. Inhale, tabletop. And take a moment to swing your legs out in front of you. From here, let your legs sit out long in front. And what we're looking to do is to get our feet to kind of move side to side. So you can kind of see here, this is my hip moving. You can see the pant is moving a whole bunch. I want to be able to stop my knee from moving. And I want to wave like a prom queen. Like a prom queen, you would wave. And we're going to try to test this out for a second and see if you can get your feet to move without your knees going anywhere. And we're just going to test this for about 10 seconds. And if your legs are moving around, that's fine. We're going to have another iteration of this in just a second on how this works. And you can work to point your toes. You can work to spread your toes out really, really wide. Just trying to find some connection to your feet. Inhale, bring your left foot in nice and close. And what you're going to look to do is, again, to rotate at your ankle. So again, with my heel nice and close, I'm just going to kind of send my foot side to side. It's going to be a little bit easier to kind of process because now my knee doesn't go anywhere. Because if my hip moves, now everything moves. Again, we're just solidifying the fact that we can create movement. Work to pull your toes up really high. You'll feel your shin is working really hard for a second. And if it's doing a whole lot, you can take a moment and kind of just grind your knuckles into your shin and kind of let that open up, especially if it feels really tight or starts to cramp up. Sometimes it will. And we're just here for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And go ahead and switch out for the other side. Pull your foot in nice and close. Pick up your toes and be able to go back and forth. So we're trying to limit the amount of movement from our knee should be a lot of activation around the shin. And if we're here, we're only here for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let your legs stretch out long in front of you. Again, give us a moment to move your toes around, let your feet kind of dance. Might feel a whole lot easier to get them to wave around. Let's start to work our way up. Plant your feet firmly onto the floor, just a little outside your hip, and then let your knees fall to one side. And then find your way up and over to the other side. So at first, just start moving back and forth. I'm leaning back really far because when I lean forward, it's a lot tougher. I'm just looking to add a little bit more through the movement. Now we're going to try to freeze into a spot where it feels really tough. So again, start from the very beginning and then gently allow yourself to start the movement. And right where you get stuck, wherever that is. So for me, I get stuck. Hip flexor. Yeah. Sometimes this hip flexor will get a little bit upset. You got the right idea. Just kind of dig your hand into it. And once you're able to kind of make your way through it, slowly keep going. But again, take time on the spots that feel really crunchy. So right here. So again, I found another spot. And then slowly find your way back. Again, actively looking for anything that doesn't feel great. Continue to drive your heart forward to find some more space. And if you find something super, super tight, stay there for a second and give yourself a chance to adjust to it. See if you can start to help yourself out. Ooh, there's a good one. Find your way back to center and then roll all the way down onto your back. Take a minute to place one hand onto your belly and one hand onto your heart. Take 2 rounds of breath to focus in on your intention. So find a good long inhale. Let it be 3, 4 seconds. And let the exhale be just as long. Take a moment to stack your knees over the top of your heels. Again, realign, and then gently drive your knees out. You'll feel the edge of your hip kind of turn on a little bit. Strong breath in. Start to dig your heels into the ground and try to lift your hips up. So what we're avoiding is keeping our spine down. We want our spine to keep lifting with it. Draw your knees out to keep the outer portion of your glute firing. And do your best just to hold near the top. For 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slowly let your hips come back down. Once your hips are all the way down, bring your knees together. Squeeze your inner thighs. Lift. But recognize you will not get up as high. You'll get stuck a lot sooner. So the more you squeeze in, we're not going to be able to extend the hips as strong as we'd like to. Go for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Drive your knees out. Your hips are going to lift a heck of a lot easier. Take one more moment to feel your hips squeeze in. Exhale, lower on down. Half wind removing pose on the right. Extend your left leg nice and long. Interlace your fingers at the top of your right shin. And gently start to guide your knee towards your armpit. You could do some other tests here, like bringing it up and across a little bit to get some internal rotation. The idea is to find out where there's discomfort in the hip. So it could be small circles to kind of get started. I sometimes like to imagine I'm like going up a staircase and I want to get like 4 or 5 steps. So I got to get my knee up super, super high to get to that next round of steps. That's what we're kind of looking for here. Other options, it might feel nice again to move that ankle around, especially if you feel you have tight ankles. To get it to wave. Find a nice strong breath in. Exhale, supine twist. Send your knee across your hip. And here's the next option. The longer you extend your leg, the more rotation is going to occur. So if it's really, really tight, you can always place a block and keep your knee bent. If you want more, you start to extend very, very long through your leg. Now your back shoulder might come up. It's not the end of the world. See if you can find a good balancing point where we can relax into the posture and allow the rotation to occur around the hip and the spine. This transverse, this rotation of our core is one of the pivotal things that our core needs to do. With each inhale, allow yourself to feel you're getting taller. To feel your crown of your head reach, your leg reaches a little bit further across the room. Other slight options here might be nice to take your top hand, so in this scenario, your right hand, into like your rib cage and your side body and gently kind of massage anything that feels a little bit tight. So if you start to feel like this panel on your back that kind of heads to the outside, that's your QL. This is one of the muscles that's responsible for some of our rotation. If that feels tight heading in towards your spine, it's your QL that's a little bit tight. Inhale, find your way back to center. Slowly use your core to kind of help you come back. And then swap out for the other leg. Let it pull up and around. Again, you can start to challenge some internal rotation. You can get your ankle moving. Find something kind of difficult and know that this side does not have to be the same. The likelihood that your hips are at the same spot, very small. And you can try to think you're trying to get up way too many stairs. Nice strong breath in. Exhale, supine twist, send your knee across. And you have the same opportunity to extend your leg nice and long. Allow your shoulders to melt down to the floor. Yet again, it's okay to recognize your sides are a little bit different. Same kind of idea. You can start to press into your side body. You can try to reach longer. Recognize how much your spine needs to rotate. So with your shoulders still squared up towards the ceiling, your hips squared off to the wall, there's a huge opportunity to rotate around the core. You can always keep your knee bent if it's too much, or again, reach a little bit longer. Inhale, find your way back to center. Plant your feet onto the floor. Place one hand onto your belly, one hand onto your heart, and take 2 slow rounds of breath coming back to your intention. Cross your right ankle up over your left knee. Find a strong breath in. Exhale, let your foot travel to the left, or bring your right foot to plant into the floor. So now we're going to create some external rotation around the hip. Your goal is to start to push the knee away from you. So now that twist might be a little bit more on the front side. So again, you can start to kind of poke into the front portion of your obliques. Maybe the edge of like where a six-pack would be, that's your rectus abdominis. Might also feel kind of nice to kind of start down by your hip and kind of pull up towards your ribs. So this is the ascending portion of your colon. So for our digestion, so technically this side, it runs up. So you can actually encourage digestion of anything that kind of gets stuck. Allow your knee to continue to drift away from you. Other opportunities here is to grab on to your quad right by your hip and help it rotate out. So you would basically turn it clockwise if you're looking at it. It'll open up a little bit more. Or again, you can poke into any of the spots that are uncomfortable. So my hip flexor is a little bit tight on this side. So inhale, slowly find your way back to center. And switch out your legs. So for me, this hip does not open up as much, so it's a lot harder. For me, as soon as I get into it, I can feel my butt tries to lift away from the floor instead of staying down. So that then reminds me that this hip is really, really tight and needs more time. Find a nice strong breath in. Exhale, let your left foot drift to the right. And feel yourself rotate through it. Begin to gently push your knee away. Thus, your hip would turn counterclockwise. Anywhere that feels tight, feel free to kind of poke and prod yourself. It's your body. You can do what you want. Now on this side, instead of pulling up from the rib, you would actually start from the ribs and push down. So this would technically be our descending colon. Inhale, find your way to center. Take a moment to bring your knees in towards your chest. Gently grab for the top sides of each of your shins, so just underneath your knee, and then pull both knees towards your shoulders. What we're looking to do is not let our back come up off the ground. We're going to be able to keep our spine down. So really try to find yourself nice and long and encourage as much rotation. So my feet slightly tuck in towards the center, My knees slightly drive out, encouraging more and more rotation. Start to think, if you were in the lowest portion of your squat, could you still keep your feet nice and planted and stay balanced? Back should feel nice and flat, and a lot of work is happening at the hips. Continue to pull. Feel your back start to engage a little bit. 3, 2, 1. Allow your feet to plant gently back onto the floor. Return your hand to your belly, one hand to your heart, one round of breath. Inhale, reach your arms high up overhead with your thumbs facing down. Feel your back still connect to the floor. So as you reach your hands up and your back starts to lift off the ground, this is lat tightness. That means your latissimus dorsi, this big, big muscle that runs on your back, is really tight. So if this doesn't stay down, that's all that means. Let your hands hang out overhead and gently allow your elbows to fall to the ground. Other opportunities is to continue to turn so your palms would face down towards the ground, just like you were in mountain pose standing up. Inhale, find a reach. Exhale, pull your shoulders down. 2 more times just like that. On your inhale, let your hands reach. Exhale, drive your shoulders down. 1 more. Inhale, reach your arms up high to the ceiling, and then give it a big thumbs down. Inhale, let your arms reach back up overhead. Continue to encourage this rotation. You might get stuck, and that's okay. This is internal rotation. This is where I've had impingements. So it gets really, really difficult. So think thumb is up nice and high, pinkies down towards the floor. Work to keep your rib cage down. 3 rounds of breath here. If it's really tight and it's holding on, learn to forgive yourself for it and see if you can help yourself by just breathing. One more round. Inhale, let your arms reach up nice and high, and then gently roll to your left or your right side. Either one is fine. Take a moment to align your elbow to your shoulder with your fist up towards the ceiling. So we have this nice 90-degree bend with your hand high up to the sky. You can always rest your head on a pillow or on a block. You can even let your head just hang if that feels all right. And from here, gently allow your hand to reach, creating a lot of external rotation around the shoulder. So for now, I can't get all the way down. Just gonna allow it to continue to rotate. Maybe press it just a little bit. And then inhale all the way up, over, and then right at the very end, slight encouragement. So the idea is not to drive it all the way to the floor, but to just give it a little bit. That's creating internal rotation at the shoulder. Always have other options to bring your top hand into your shoulder and kind of poke and prod around, especially if it feels really tight, like ouch painful, like stabby painful, then definitely go in and start kind of poking and prodding around. See if you can actually find if there's an injury in there. You'll kind of recognize it because it'll kind of feel like knives. But if it's just uncomfortable, it's usually just something really tight. Inhale all the way up, and you can just roll to your other side. I'm going to spin around like I'm breakdancing. And we start over. Wrist stacks. So for me, I have a little lack of rotation on this side. My arm doesn't come all the way down, but with a little encouragement, I can. Inhale all the way up, and then let it roll. This is often referred to as a sleeper stretch because a lot of people sleep on their side like this. So we're just making sure that there's good, proper internal rotation. So for me, this side's way, way tighter. So again, squeeze into the muscle. You might actually find where that muscle is firing if your hand moves a little bit. You can actually feel what area is really tight. And when you push into it, open it up, space opens up and you get a little bit further. Inhale, find your way back. And then all the way up to your tabletop. Take a moment to stack your shoulders just over your fingertips. So it's not to sit way back here with your hands up. I want you to kind of push forward a little bit and star your hands out as wide as you can. Nice strong breath in. Exhale, see if you can get even further. Start to recognize the stretch in your forearms. It might actually feel kind of nice to rock side to side. Think you're trying to get your shoulders over your fingertips. It's also a good test to find out how well our wrists are doing in general. Inhale, center your left hand underneath your nose, and then place your right hand over the top of it, thus pinning it down. From here, allow your shoulder to rotate, which basically means the soft side of your elbow will expose and then hide. So allow yourself to rotate all the way around this space. It's a great chance to make sure that there's a ton of circulation down through your wrist. This might feel super, super tight. And this is always a nice reminder that our arms should be in an external rotation, soft side forward, whenever we're doing push-ups or planks. It helps lock out the arm a lot stronger than if it's all turned in. Go ahead and swap out for the other side. So bring your right hand down underneath your nose, left hand over the top. Again, allow there to be rotation. And other ways to test it is starting to bring your shoulder up towards your ear. You'll find more internal. Shoulder pulls down and back, more external. And then my favorite moment of this series, flip your palms. So you're gonna go completely over. So the backside of your hand is down. Now come in really, really close if this is kind of painful. So the closer you are, the less you're gonna push into it. And I just want you to take a moment again to rotate a little bit. There might not be anything there to move. And then open and close your palms a little bit, almost like you're trying to play the piano or to like type on a keyboard. So practice getting a little bit of rotation, open and close your hands. It should feel like a lot. This should be almost as bad as like broken toe pose for a second, because essentially we're doing the same thing. Just here for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a seat onto your heels. Gently pick up your hands. They're going to feel super weird for a second. Just let yourself move. Now, what we're looking to do here is create some more movement, right? Just moving it all around. So what we've done is we've cut off circulation by holding it into that posture for a while. And now we're letting all this brand new blood to go in there, that's like flooding our hands with all kinds of new stuff. So all kinds of new minerals, all kinds of vitamins, all kinds of other resources that's going to help us heal up, all starts to flood in through our hands. So your hands might start to feel really cold or really warm for a second. So I always found that kind of interesting. Eventually it'll start to feel like they just kind of move around really easy. Nice strong breath in. Find your way back to your tabletop. Now separate your knees just outside your hips. And instead of bringing your toes together for a child's pose, leave your knees away from each other. Find a nice strong breath in. Exhale, shift your hips back and see if you can put your butt on the wall behind you. Don't think about the floor. Continue to think to reach further back. You'll naturally start to internally rotate at the hip. You can always put a block underneath your hip if it's too high or it feels really uncomfortable. But I want you to think back instead of down. The option here as well is to shift forward into tabletop and then reshift back into it. So if it gets to be too intense, see if you can stay in that intense spot for a good round of breath. And see if you can shift back. Inhale, tabletop, big toes come together. Exhale, shift your hips down and back. Now this is going to create an external rotation around the hips, allowing you to sit back a little bit further and start to melt down to the floor. You can reach your arms out in front of you. You can put your hands on top of blocks if you want more of a lat stretch. So if your lats felt really tight beforehand, great opportunity. Or you can even try to pick up your palms and reach your elbows out a little bit further. And simply focus in on your ability to breathe big and controlled. Even though this is much more of a yin styling of practice, trying to hold and have this like stereotype yoga. Allow your breath to be actionable. You kind of feel as you're breathing to kind of connect to a movement pattern. So every exhale, try to push your hips back a little bit further. Maybe every inhale, feel how much you can fill up on your ribs. And you start to find the stretch across your back. Maybe your arms reach a little bit further. Start to experiment with the different ideas, and suddenly a very passive posture can be super active inside your head, giving you more direction and places to go. Even starting to seek out different things in the posture. Inhale, tabletop, slowly walk yourself back down. And from your tabletop, gently bring your knee out to the side and put it back down. So just a couple of little ones here to reach out. You'll feel your hip turn on a little bit. And then we're going to create movement in a different light. Here we go. Inhale, it comes up. Turn your foot down. Then see if you can pick back up and rotate back. So again, to rotate down, rotate and back. Now, again, if the full movement's not there, it could just be leg comes out, there's a little tilt, and this is all that's accessible. So what? Take that as a victory. Some days that's all I got. If you want to try to get a little bit more out of it, once your foot's down, you can always coerce it down, shift your hips back, and you can find another movement around that hip. Whatever you're working through, it should start to feel a little bit smoother. Inhale, tabletop. Let's test drive the other side. So again, it might take a second. Allow your leg to just come up, feel your glute turn on, and put it back down. Then when you're ready, pick it up. Foot will come down, starting that rotation. Inhale, find your way back to your tabletop, and then slowly lower all the way down into your belly. Gently bring your elbows in so they stack underneath your shoulders, and your palms are nice and smoothly down to the ground. Take a moment to let your legs reach nice and long. Inhale, start to send your gaze up high to the sky. So see if you can get your chin a little bit higher. And don't think you're heading to the back wall. Think you're heading towards the upper front wall. So gun for the corner that's in front of you. Other ways to help yourself here is to drag your elbows back so your hands might slide a little bit and you have a chance to get up even higher. Exhale, tuck your chin in towards your chest. Stay for a round of breath. Inhale, reach all the way up. As high as you can, so use your breath to your advantage as far as you can get. Exhale, tuck your chin in towards your chest, release everything back down. See how much movement you can create around your shoulders and your spine. Two more reps. Try to keep your shoulders away from your ears. I'm not even doing a great job of that today, but hey, it happens. Inhale, look up high to the ceiling, and then start to look over your left shoulder. Inhale, center. Exhale, look over the right. Inhale, center. Lower all the way down. Extend your arms out wide to the side. And gently pick your hands up off the floor. As you Bring your pinkies down towards your hip. Continue to squeeze your shoulder blades back and together, and your hands are going to get higher and higher up behind you. Exhale, slowly let your hands guide forward and try to keep your hands as high as you can. And at some point, you're going to start to lose it. It's going to start to fall to the floor, and there's not much you can do about it. Just try to keep your hands as high as you can. And all the way back. Again, think, how high can I keep my hands off the floor? One more time. As much as you can inhale, let your hands reach up and back. Exhale. Try to keep your hands up over your head. Stay for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let your hands fall to the floor. Then a nice strong breath in. Exhale, return to your back. So you're just going to kind of flip over. I'm going to rotate, but all you have to do is flip over. From here, any posture that feels welcoming, whether it be a happy baby variation, an opportunity to flex and extend at your leg. It might feel nice to kind of let yourself come up and do crunches. And if you really want to, you can absolutely get up and do burpees. But once you are all done with your movements, seek stillness. You can always place one hand onto your belly, one hand onto your heart. You can let your legs go really long. Stay for one more big round of breath in. Let everything go. One big final squeeze for ourselves. Bring your knees in towards your chest. Send your eyebrows up to meet your knees. And get as small as you can. And squeeze and squeeze and squeeze and squeeze and squeeze. Exhale, final Shavasana. Just give up into the floor. Feel your tongue from the roof of your mouth. Melt the expression away from your face. And for one more moment, return to what drives and inspires you. One important question you should ask yourself: what am I doing to help others? So it's not the passive act of doing it. To do the right thing when you think it's right is to go out there and actively help others. If you're ready to get started on the rest of your evening, in the words of the bride in Kill Bill, wiggle your big toe. See if you can just create movement around your toe. And as that starts to come alive, start to recognize your other toes start to move a little bit. Maybe both feet start to go, your ankles come alive. It might feel nice to kind of wave side to side or to flex and then systematically flex, which is silly. You might start to feel your hips and your knees come alive, your wrists, your elbows, and your shoulders, like you're just stirring out of a nap. You can roll to your left or your right side into a fetal pose, taking a moment to rest your head on your bicep and to curl into a little ball. Fetal pose is a posture of rebirth. So you can restart your life however you see fit. And with our last little bit, find your way to an easy seat with your hands back at heart center. To sit up tall and proud of what you've accomplished and learned about yourself. And bring your hands together at heart center. Lift your thumbs to third eye center, the space between your eyebrows. The light, the love, and the hero in me humbly bows to the light, the love, and the hero in you. Bow forward. Namaste. Well, you have an unfair advantage. You can just go right to bed. We still have to wrap up here. So any other questions, comments, concerns, feedback? Or maybe you just fell asleep during it and that's cool too. Again, Danielle, thank you so much for your time. Have a good night and I'll see you soon.